A family living in a country house is gathered for dinner. They held hands to say a prayer. Suddenly all the dishes and furniture in the house began to shake, and the electricity went out. Next, we see dozens of books by Lauren Stone. She is a scientist who has dedicated her research to the UFO phenomenon. An extreme news broadcast began, reporting that there was an explosion in Bajor, Pennsylvania, a town of less than 2,000 people. Every single resident of the town deceased. Bajor is now isolated. The air around the town is highly toxic. There is currently no information about the nature of this ominous phenomenon. Lauren Stone, listening to the news broadcast, looks at the sky through a telescope. The woman is abusing alcohol, being in deep depression. That evening, she saw soldiers on her doorstep who ordered her to go with them. Lauren was taken to a military base. Colonel Roger Emmerich introduced her to Professor David Santiago, an astrobiologist. Then the colonel told that the fallen object was a meteorite. Within a 30-mile radius of the impact site, all life was destroyed. The strangest thing is that the meteorite disappeared, leaving behind a volatile and highly toxic substance. People are dealing with a phenomenon that they have never encountered before. And the colonel wants the scientists to figure it all out. Before they left, the colonel hinted to Lauren that the meteorite might have brought an alien life form to Earth. Emmerich chose Lauren because he needed a person who believes. But she will have to take an alcohol test. 10 minutes later, the scientists were taken to the restricted area. They were in chemical protection suits. David looks at a photo of his sons, then tries to strike up a conversation with the colleague. He has read her books and knows that Lauren has faced criticism. But like her, David is eager to find the answer to the question, does extraterrestrial life exist? Scientists have studied the fall site of the mysterious celestial body. They are puzzled as to how the meteorite could have disappeared. Suddenly Lauren noticed something strange in the soil. It could be an extraterrestrial plant. Lauren greeted it. This might be the first contact with extraterrestrial life, whatever it might be. At home, Lauren studies the mysterious creature, then searches the internet for information about the meteorite that fell on the Russian city of Chelyabinsk in 2013. There were also many victims after the incident. Part of the city was barricaded, but nothing was said about it in official sources. In fact, a seed appeared at the site of the meteorite fall, from which a huge tree grew. Plants and animals within several dozen miles began to perish. Two pathologists, Dr. Maria Pasalo and Dr. Hurd, are preparing to perform an autopsy on Robert Windsor, one of the victims of the unknown toxin. Many specialists in various fields will observe this. When Maria began her work, she saw a strange fluid inside Robert. The wound healed before the shocked doctor's eyes. Suddenly Robert sat up. The frightened doctor stepped aside. The director of the Centers for Disease Control told Robert he was in a quarantine room. But Robert didn't react to this at all. Then the woman told Maria to check Robert's pulse. Despite her fear, Maria did it. The pulse was not palpable, the man was cold. Maria doesn't understand how this is possible. She tried to explain the situation to Robert, saying that he had fallen victim to a biological attack. But Robert still showed no reaction. Soon all those who deceased after the meteorite fell came back to life. When the press found out about this, they tried to break into the secret base and get an interview. Upon learning of this resurrection phenomenon, scientists and religious people were puzzled. Some consider it a villainy, others a miracle. There is currently no explanation for what happened. David asked Lauren if she was okay. The woman was too shocked to answer. Meanwhile, scientists are trying to study the resurrected, but they don't react to anything and don't recognize their loved ones. Maybe there is no self-awareness left in them. Many people are asking why out of 1,300, only 49 were resurrected. It turns out that these 49 victims lived in close proximity to the blast site. They not only breathed in the air but also ingested some substance that spread immediately after the meteorite fell. Because of this substance, people underwent metamorphoses. Inside them it was as if a new life had taken root. Lauren told the colonel that a similar incident had already occurred in 2013 in Chelyabinsk. And it was not an accident, but an attack. During an emergency meeting, the question was raised about further actions. The resurrected do not have a heartbeat, breathing, or brain activity. They also do not eat, drink, or sleep. Tests have revealed the presence of some unknown substances. All victims have undergone not just mutations, but changes in DNA. No one knows what the final stage of the transformation will be. Most members of the assembly believe it is reasonable to get rid of all the resurrected. This is how the Russians acted after the meteorite fell on Chelyabinsk. Lauren believes that it is necessary to thoroughly study this phenomenon, as it is not excluded that this may happen again in the future. Lauren could not resist and bought alcohol again, remembering her past. The father wanted to show her something secret that must not be told to anyone. The relatives of the resurrected people tried to awaken emotions in them, but in vain. However, Lauren believes that everything will work out. She went to the isolation ward to the resurrected and addressed one of them, showing a book about space. In her childhood, this was Lauren's favorite book. The mother constantly read it to her. The mother passed away when Lauren was 10 years old. That day she did not even cry. Lauren understands that this is not normal. Now she hopes to establish contact with the resurrected, but she fails. However, when Lauren received a call from David, the resurrected one grabbed her hand. In fear, Lauren recoiled from her. The resurrected one did not move anymore. Later, the colonel and the scientists spoke about the red plant. Lauren is convinced that it needs to be brought to the base. But the colonel did not support her point of view, as this seedling destroyed the whole city. This is a question of national security. David noticed that all the resurrected always look to the north, in the direction of Bajor, where the meteorite fell. David believes that there is something there. At this moment the colonel confessed that they had found the seedling. Meanwhile, the news reported that the seedling had grown to incredible sizes in a short period of time. The air around it is toxic. Everyone used to think that it was a meteorite, but now it's clear that it's a seed. The question is who and why sent it to Earth. The scientists in chemical protection suits arrived at the tree. It was truly gigantic and unlike anything terrestrial. Robert was also brought here. He didn't have a protective suit because he was neither entirely alive nor entirely human. So far, Robert is still not reacting to anything. However, Lauren continues to believe that Robert will regain consciousness. Suddenly the man took his first breath. His eyes became bright blue. The military kept their weapons ready, while Robert looked at his hands and then turned his gaze to the tree. Everyone was shocked by what they saw. Meanwhile, Robert picked up the snow. He looked upon it as a miracle. The military welcomed the visitor to Earth. He said he cannot live among humans. Later, Lauren conveyed the aliens' words to the press and the world. These creatures cannot live on Earth because the local air is toxic to them. Only that tree can maintain a favorable environment for them. It turned out that these aliens are from a distant planet. They came here through a wormhole. A certain elderly man watching the news cannot hold back tears. In the meantime, Lauren received a voicemail from her psychiatrist. The thing is, Lauren has missed several meetings with the doctor, which was one of the conditions of her parole. Lauren ignored the message. Later, someone she certainly didn't expect showed up on her doorstep. The man asked for permission to enter. Clearly, Lauren was not happy with this meeting, but she did not drive him away. There is a mess in the apartment, but it didn't matter to the man. The father began to recall how Lauren had been interested in space since childhood and dreamed of becoming a great scientist. But then something happened that changed their lives forever. Lauren continued to be aloof. When the father left, she barely held back her emotions. Later, the colonel said that Robert refuses to speak to anyone but her. Emmerich asked Lauren not to forget that this alien is not a human. The colonel also gave her a list of questions that are important to get answers to. The authorities want to know who these aliens are and where they came from. The alien told Lauren that their planet had become uninhabitable, so they began to look for a new home. Nowhere except for Earth, the seed sprouted. The aliens got the coordinates of this place from one of the humans. This person calls oneself Supernova 94. Now the aliens know the strengths of humans, as well as their weaknesses. Lauren admitted that sooner or later the tree will be destroyed because it is poisoning Earth. But the aliens stated that humanity will not stop them. They came from a hostile planet to conquer this world. In addition to everything else, the aliens possess superpowers. They can control human consciousness. The extraterrestrial demonstrated this in a clear example, forcing one of the scientists to remove his protective suit. The same thing happened with one of the soldiers. Suddenly all the scientists and soldiers fell to the ground, hearing a terrifying noise in their heads that caused pain. People were removing their protective masks and inhaling the toxic air. They were in a state of madness, attacking each other or harming themselves. Aviation was involved, but something blocked the missiles. The radars went out of order. Whenever rockets flew into the tree, they bumped into an energy shield of unknown nature. The alien is protecting the last hope for the survival of its species. Then we see the same old man again. He is listening to the news about the person who calls himself Supernova 94, who is now officially wanted by the FBI. This is a terrorist on a universal scale. The man is somehow connected to Supernova 94 and has been keeping this secret for many years. People all over the world hear ominous sounds coming from the sky. Many cities are filled with dense fog that destroys everything in its path. Martial law has been declared in most countries. The earth shook, all crops in the fields died. The soil was poisoned. All that remains for people is to pray. Animals sensing danger, begin to flee. Lauren came to her childhood home. When she was 8, the father built a laboratory for her as she dreamed of becoming a scientist from a very early age. However, Lauren never dared to talk to her father. The end of the world is approaching, but Lauren, against all logic, feels relieved. She wants her suffering to end and walks towards the poisonous tree. Putting on a protective mask, Lauren told the alien that the tree has changed. He replied that it is going through a certain process. It's time for the next stage. Lauren is running out of oxygen. The alien told her that the tree was the last chance for their species. Lauren fought for it, so she is also involved in what's happening. When the alien held out his hand to her, Lauren touched it and sank into her memories. That day, the father, who was a senator, took her to a secret place that no one was allowed to know about, not even her mother. The father and daughter arrived at Area 51. When the father stepped away with a team of scientists, Lauren heard a strange whisper and followed its direction. The girl eavesdropped on the military and scientists talking about an alien who had arrived on Earth on its ship. The visitor wanted to plant something, but couldn't adapt to the local atmosphere. Lauren secretly infiltrated the laboratory and found a capsule with the wounded alien. When she placed her palm on the glass, it did the same. In this way, the alien transferred part of its knowledge to Lauren. She became a little genius and was much smarter than her peers. The girl also claimed that she was from another planet and wanted to go home. One day Lauren assembled a transmitter, and introducing herself as Supernova 94, sent a signal to her kin. The mother was very unhappy with her daughter's obsession with science. Lauren continued to behave aggressively, and using her superpowers, drove her mother insane. The father found out that the daughter's DNA was changing. This made him cry. In the present, Lauren is also crying. All the memories have returned to her. When the alien removed her mask, she was able to breathe without difficulty in the toxic atmosphere. Many years ago, CIA agents partially intercepted Lauren's signal broadcasted into space. Among the CIA agents was Jack, that very old man. They knew nothing about the mysterious sender except for the nickname. Strange egg-shaped objects began appearing all over the world. They were the source of that noise. The capsule spread a black fog all over the Earth, destroying all living things. The aliens were creating a favorable atmosphere for themselves. The Earth was no longer habitable for humans. All animals and plants were extinct. Now the planet is a completely different world. Lauren is happy that she is finally home.